What's up, guys? Kyle here. Thank you for tuning in for another Friday video. Today is a special video because I'm going to be having a very special guest on with me to have a chat and talk about their company and the cigars they manufacture. So stick around and find out who I'm currently smoking with. So what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. This is the latest episode of Currently Smoking With, and I am here with Antonio from Reinado Cigars. Antonio, why don't you say hello to everyone?
Hey, how are you?
So thanks for being on the show, Antonio, and it was really great to hear from you and that you wanted to be on the show. So I really appreciate that. And this is our first, I guess you could call it face-to-face meeting, even though it is online. So,
Yes,
but
sir.
really happy to have you on the show.
I'm
So,
glad to be here, man. Thank you for the invite.
you're very welcome. So definitely want to get to know you and tell people on my channel about you and your business. So why don't you go ahead and start with, just obviously we know your name is Antonio, but we want to get a little bit into your family history and how you got into
Yeah,
manufacturing cigars.
yeah, of course. So I formally launched the brand Reinado in
Mhm.
2009, and Reinado means the time of reign that a prominent figure is in power, right? So
Right.
I wanted to come up with something very classical, something that would withstand the time. That's how we came up with the brand name, and then we launched in 2009 at a trade show, at the retailer trade show IPCPR at that time it was called.
Right.
Um, and we were flying under the radar. I mean, it took us a couple of years to really kind of get noticed. We were blending with a factory from Condega, Nicaragua,
Mhm.
with Yadi Gonzalez, and Ortiz also owns some of that factory, and doing a really solid. We came out with a solid core blend. It was medium, medium body, medium strength. It did well for us. We came out in a couple sizes, and then from there, after a couple of years, we came out with that same factory. We came out with the Reinado Grand Empire Reserve, one size, 5x55 box press, which really put us kind of like on the map as far as boutiques, as far
Okay.
as we could be on the map. But that kind of really got some attention for us at that trade show. I remember Half Wheel kind of like, gave us a really nice shout out in an article of us being one of the gems at the show. So we were happy about that. It got rated really well. That Vitola, that blend. A couple people are still looking for it. So I'm really honored. I hardly have any of them left, unfortunately.
Oh
I
yeah.
smoke
Is it?
my stuff. I don't keep stuff. It's like I'm a crack addict. I can't help myself.
Well, when
So,
it's good and it's just like you made a good product and you really enjoy it, it's just like, why not? It's there. You're supposed to smoke it. I mean, one of my friends a while back was telling me, he's a cigar broker. He has a lot of really old cigars, aged cigars and stuff that he keeps in one specific humidor. But at the same time, he says, I know one day I'm going to smoke these because they're made to be consumed.
yeah,
They're not meant to sit in a collection or, just stay in your humidor for years and years at a time. I mean, if you can get your hands on some rare ones, that's fantastic. But the idea is eventually you want to smoke them. But I also, it's one of those things where I've joked in the past that I'm envious of cigar manufacturers because they have access to product all the time, so they get to smoke their stuff all the time and enjoy and all that kind of fun stuff. But the
yeah.
original line is that it was called the Empire. You said
Oh well, the original line was the core line. It
just
didn't.
the core
It just
line.
had the core. It was a red and like a dark red and gold band.
Is that
Not
something
what.
you'd ever think you put back out there again?
Absolutely, I've. It's been in the back of my mind for some
Yeah.
time, but it would take like a significant amount of blending for me to be comfortable enough to bring it out again, because it has to be just as good, if not better, than what everybody remembers. So it's a tough one.
Right.
It's
Right,
a tough
because it's
one.
been probably a good amount of time since you've blended it and put it out. So that would
Yes,
be
sir.
that'd be tricky. It's like trying to find the that right sweet spot when you've even if you have like it all written down and you're like, okay, we know what's in the cigar,
Right.
but you want to make sure that it's blended the right way so that way you get that original flavor.
Yeah,
So
the problem is that, tobacco is an organic product. The tobacco's changed already. It's been years. So the flavors have changed, everything's changed. So you gotta kind of like go back to the drawing board and revamp everything. That's kind of tough,
right.
but I'm up for the challenge. I just have to set aside the time for it. And I will go on and say that my original bands, those red and gold bands, had on the side the initials AL, which is me, Antonio Lam, and then right next to it they had ML, which is my son, Matthew Lam. So we're on Dad Smoking Cigars. I'm a dad as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. That's it's well, I guess on that note, how were you first introduced to cigars? Like how old were you like when you first kind of had an interest in them and then smoked and then decided to develop them yourself?
it was later on, and I mean, my father never smoked a cigar that I'm aware
Yeah.
of, so it didn't come from there. I just kind of like randomly walked into a cigar shop one day in my
Mhm.
area, and I started, I was intrigued, and then as I sat day after day, I just kind of got to know a lot of the regulars there, and the community just fascinated me as much as the cigar itself and the experience. The community
Mhm.
is kind of like what drew me in, right?
Absolutely. It's the same thing with
So
because I
yeah.
used to just smoke. I used to just smoke cigars to smoke them. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I never paid any attention to like flavor
Hmm.
or anything, anything deeper than just smoking the cigar. But when
Right.
I got immersed in the community, that's when I really began to dive deeper.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I talk about it a lot. It's fascinating that all walks of life, all races, all ethnicities, everything is just like leveled off, and everybody's just, on one level for for a long time. I mean, it's really nice to see that. And
mhm.
so anyway, early on, I mean, I've been into cigars. I'm gonna say not let's say since the early, like maybe 2000, 2001.
Okay. So
I'm
you
gonna say.
you got you got into them not too long before I did
Hmm.
because I was about 19 years old when I smoked my first cigar. I was back in like 2003
Okay.
and it was around my birthday and
Nice.
I just said to my dad because I knew he smoked periodically because you know he I don't remember how I knew that he did, but I think he'd mentioned he'd had like Cuban cigars before or whatever.
Oh,
And he, I said, I want to try a cigar. And so he took me and bought my first cigar, and I've loved it ever since. And so that's where the inspiration for calling the brand Dad Smoking Cigars because my dad got me into cigars. I'm a dad myself. And so, it just, and the wonderful thing about it is that it is relatable to everyone. Cause I
yeah.
mean, we all have a dad for the most part, or we are dads or just parents ourselves. And so it's very relatable. And it's one of the things that I've loved about how it's developed over the last few years is that, it draws people in and it connects me to some really amazing people. And, obviously it caught your eye because you're like, well, I'm a dad, I smoke cigars, so let's have a conversation.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for sure. I kept seeing your social media posts, and I thought it was a really original thing to be posted online. I was like, hey man, and there's nothing better than a dad. We're awesome.
yes, yes, we are. We
We're
are.
awesome.
So
We just
so you
are.
told me about your son Matthew. Do you have only one kid? Do you have a couple? Okay, so you have how old is your son now?
Just one. He's 21 right now.
Oh my gosh, you look way too young to have a son that old.
I know. Thank you. We look like brothers when we're walking down the street.
Yeah, I'll bet. So because I'm almost 40 and my kids are gosh, nine and almost 5.
Oh wow,
So
that's nice.
I got some young kids and yeah, they keep me on my toes, that's for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I just
So
went for a beer with my son the other day. You can't do that.
not yet. No, I'm the kid that has beer with his dad. So that's I'm the other half of that equation there. So
Yeah, yeah,
my dad got me into cigars, he got me into beer, he got me into whiskey, basically all the vices,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all the fun vices. So,
I
but
like him already.
was that? No, yeah,
I
he's a
like
great
him
guy.
already.
If you ever get, I mean, I don't know if you've watched how many of the videos on the channel you've watched, but the ones where he's with me are the ones that people enjoy the most, just because him and I have
Yeah,
a rapport, obviously from being together since I was born and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff, and
Nice.
it's always a blast hanging out with him, and we were able to riff off each other, and it's a good time. I'm sure you and your son have a similar dynamic when you hang out. So does
Yeah,
he
yeah.
smoke cigars too?
He doesn't. I look for the day when he does. He's told me that he's interested, but he's not really ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't feel like he is. He's very meticulous with his choices. So
Well,
I'm like,
you want to be sure that you like something or that you're ready to try something, because I mean, I have people ask me questions. Wherever I go, I tend to be like the resident cigar guy, like at my job or certain places that I spend time. People asking me like, will I get sick if I try a cigar? Well,
right.
what should I smoke first, and what would you recommend? And it's like I usually go the same route every time. It's like, try as mild as you can right off the bat. If you want to
Yep.
start with flavored. That's what I did.
Yeah.
First cigar I ever smoked was a Kojimara vanilla flavored, and
Wow. Okay.
they're relatively obscure, but it's they've been around for years, and they mostly put out like flavored and infused cigars.
Okay.
But it's awesome because it's a company run by a woman, a lady by the name of Rosie Perez, and so she does pretty incredible things with that brand. But that was the first cigar I ever tried, and I tell people it's
Oh,
like mild or flavored. It depends
yeah.
on what you feel like or what you feel like you're ready to try. And even if it's, I don't generally recommend this, but everybody starts somewhere, and usually most of us, I think, especially the friends that I've had over the years, even like some of the cheap gas station smokes, except for Swisher Sweets. I said, don't touch those. don't don't touch
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
because I mean, just by the smell alone, I've never tried one, but by the smell alone, I'm like, yeah, no, don't try those. Just get some of the other stuff. There's, it's you for
Plenty
a
of good
couple
cigars.
bucks. What's that?
There's plenty of good cigars out there.
Oh yeah. So, and cigars that are friendly for your budget. I mean,
Yeah.
the sampler pack that I bought from off of your website, I mean, very affordable. I only spent
Oh,
around
thank
like
you.
30-35 bucks,
Yeah.
which for three cigars, and the one that I'm smoking is the Grand Apex 660, the Gordo, which I'm really enjoying, by the way. So
Good.
very good
Good.
flavor, nice and smooth, not too strong.
Can
You
we give
know,
Aganorsa a shout out? They blended that with me. Like
absolutely.
I was the blender, but we they made it at their factory, and they were key to making this project happen. I'm eternally grateful for them. They helped us with our comeback. We haven't talked about that yet because we stopped and took a hiatus in 2015
Mm-hmm.
because of my dad. Just because of that reason,
Right.
my dad was diagnosed with dementia. And we had to tend to that issue. We felt it was the right thing to do. So my dad's still alive. He just turned 93. God bless him.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah.
How's he doing in terms of his condition and being able to interact with him?
Um, he's doing pretty well for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
his speech is impaired now. His mobility is impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Um, pretty much just in the house. He doesn't go out anymore. My mom's his primary caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and interactions with my dad are very limited.
Right.
So it's tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's tough. I've had a lot of conversations with other family members who have family who suffer from dementia. And it's hard on the family. I'm gonna say that much. It's hard.
Yeah.
So we wanted to come out back again into the market and dedicate our line to my dad and
Yeah.
to that dementia awareness effort, and that's where the Grand Apex took off, took shape. Because because the Grande Apex means the highest point that you could reach, and we wanted to bring this
Right.
brand to the highest point, just like my dad did with his career. And I talk about that, all the time. He came from Cuba with nothing, and my mom and my sister. I was born here, um,
Yeah.
and they had to start over, just like a lot of struggling families. Kudos to everybody who did that, made that crossover. And he was a lawyer in Cuba, and he started here from nothing, working in factories for years, testing light
Hmm.
bulbs, living in people's basements, in their friends' basements for years, till he could afford to own a two-family with my aunt and her husband. And then he kept climbing and climbing and climbing and getting a better job and getting a better opportunity, but fighting for it, working for it. A lot of people don't recognize what our parents did to struggle. I mean, it was a lot.
Right.
Right.
No,
So he kept that struggle going, man, and he he got to be vice president of his division in Chase Manhattan Bank, and that's where he retired 38 or 35, 38 years later.
that's an amazing story, just because I mean, it really does paint the picture of the American dream. And what
Yes, sir.
a lot of people forget is that the dream takes a while to materialize.
That's right.
No matter where you come from, no matter who you are, but I think especially if you come from a place like, Cuba or other countries that were not a good place to be,
Right.
not a place that you had a lot of freedoms or a lot of rights, you know, coming to the United States. I mean, yeah, there's opportunities here, there, and everywhere, but you got to hustle. You
You got to.
really got to hustle. And I think that's something, unfortunately, that's a lot of the younger generations don't quite understand, because yeah, you got, younger people who are really trying to make their way in the world, but I think far too often they're trying to go the easy route,
That's right.
and,
I
and
agree.
not
I agree.
willing to hustle.
Yeah, I
So
mean, and sometimes it's not entirely their fault. I mean, a lot of the
mhm.
pictures that are painted nowadays give them that illusion, and they don't have those
Right.
mentors or those parental figures all the time. Not, it's not their fault,
Yeah.
but that's the reality, that you've got to have somebody telling you, it's just not gonna come easy. You've got to
No.
work for it, for everything you have. Even a lot of people who are well off, who I know, they still take into account everything that they're, spending on, everything that they want to do. They're not taking the easy way out. That's how people
Right.
like keep going up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
So I digress. but I don't
but
want to
but I
talk.
could, but hearing you tell your dad's story, I could just hear it in your voice. Just it really moves you, and it really means a lot to you, because obviously him coming
Yeah,
here, you know, is why you're here. It's
yeah,
why you're getting to do what you're doing right now, whether it was cigars or anything else.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's awesome that you chose cigars, because it's one of those, it it never ceases to amaze me, especially when it's like smaller boutique brands. And honestly, I focus almost solely on boutique brands when it comes to
Wow.
reviews and cigars that I seek out. I'm always on the lookout for the next newest or new to me cigar, because obviously Reinado's been around for some time, but I don't think I became familiar with your brand until maybe about a year or two ago, because I think
Okay.
you did contact me once a while back,
Yeah.
and I was asking about your cigars and stuff like that, and you're like, well, here's where you can purchase them. And it took me a while, because like I don't, unfortunately I can't always make cigar purchases, just because I got other things I gotta
Of
make sure that
course.
are taken care of first. And but I'm glad I finally was able to make a purchase from your website, because like I've had my eye on them for a while. I was like, okay, that's it, I need to just pick up a sampler pack so I can get a taste of just what you've got so far, or what you have currently.
Thank you.
And right now I'm again very impressed. I mean, it's the kind of cigar I love to kick back and smoke. And I think the reason why I chose the Gordo is like I'm very tired. It's been a long day. I've been up since
Yeah.
5:30 this morning.
Wow.
And I didn't fall asleep until about 1 in the morning. And so
Whoa.
I'm running on fumes and
Yeah.
caffeine and
Yeah.
willpower. And so
Oh
I
my
wanted
goodness.
a yeah, I wanted a nice relaxing cigar that would take me a while to smoke, and that's why I picked this one. So I
Oh, good, good.
think I made the right choice. But yeah, no, it's really amazing. And you know what? Something I think a lot of people, because I try not to ramble on about this,
Hmm.
but there's two types of people I've noticed when it comes to those who want to get into the industry. There are those who want to own like a shop, or
Yep.
those who want to develop their own brand of cigars. Both are very challenging to do in their own right.
Yeah.
Um, I would say developing your own cigars is far more challenging because there's a lot of more work that goes into it, and it's not the same kind of work as running a shop or something like that. But I think those who are serious about developing their own cigars understand that it's going to take time, it's going to take effort, and there's going to be a bunch of duds before you find the right one for that next blend, that next cigar. But one thing I've noticed about cigar shop owners, not, and this isn't the same with all of them,
Hmm.
but for some, I feel like they think, oh, this sounds cool, I'll just do this. You know, I'll just run
Yeah.
a cigar shop. How hard can it be?
Yeah.
It's really freaking challenging because, you know, knowing what you want on your shelf, what, not just what's popular, but what people would enjoy. It's it's not as easy as it sounds. It sounds fun, but it is a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be. As far as being a cigar brand owner and developing blends, I mean, I would say that one of the bigger challenges also is just keeping that that willpower. You got to have a strong willpower
Oh yeah.
because you're gonna hit unimaginable roadblocks early on, and even in the middle. But early on, I was blending with somebody, and we were working on a project, and it just dismantled right at the end.
Mm,
like like it just everything fell apart right as
goodness.
soon as we were about to release it, and
Oh
that
man.
was good. That for me still like
It
still
stings.
bothers me. It
Yeah, it
still
still
does.
stings.
It still does because I had my vision for that brand, for that product line. Like it was just crushing. It was crushing, and it took me a little minute there to get up. But you got to be able. What's that famous saying? It's not how you go down, but it's how you get up. And
Yeah, that
if you're not willing to take the punches, like the knockout
yeah.
blows, get up.
It's that famous Rocky line that, yeah, the Rocky line where
Yep,
he's like, it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. It's
exactly.
one of my favorite sayings ever, just because it's so
Yeah,
true.
man. Yeah, man.
Um, you know, and so many of us, I think more people in the last 2 years have experienced that. I mean, than the last 10 years, just because of the pandemic and everything like that. It affected everything.
Yep.
And it's kind of crazy, the divergence, because I remember just before the pandemic hit, I was literally in a cigar lounge, and it was Super
Mm,
Bowl Sunday, and I'm hanging out with friends and smoking cigars. I was actually hanging out with Luis Cuevas and his wife, and they had come to California to, you know, promote a couple new cigars they just released that year.
nice.
And it's just kind of crazy because it went from that, the normal we had before, which I think we're mostly back to, in
Yeah.
for the most part. Um, it'll never be that way again, I don't think, never fully. But it was just
Probably.
crazy going from being able to go anywhere and do anything you wanted, and not really have to worry too much about, you know, I mean, really any ramifications whatsoever, to stay home, don't go anywhere, you know,
Total
unless you're,
isolation.
exactly, unless you're an essential worker, which I was. I work in
Oh,
retail,
okay.
which, you know, is a dream, but
I,
but we all got to work. We all got to work.
yeah,
We
we
all
all
got to
gotta
do our
work.
job. So,
Dude, we were essentially living in that movie, man, with Dustin
mhm.
Hoffman. What, right from the '90s? What was it?
Was it Outbreak?
Yes.
Yeah, we were. We
Yeah.
were Outbreak or Contagion or one of those movies that scares the absolute shit out of you
Yep.
because it's something that could happen and did and
Yeah.
has. But no, it was just nuts because, like, especially with all the trade shows and different events and cutting lights and going to lounges. I mean, so many lounges shut down, but I was very impressed with the perseverance of not just the manufacturers, but like the brick and mortar shops that
Yeah.
had to adapt and basically said, we'll do curbside pickup, order your cigars and we'll have them ready for you, you
Yeah.
know. And I guarantee you what two things went up during that time, among other things, but two things went up. That was at least in our community, in our little niche community, a bunch more people ordering cigars so they could smoke because they were stuck at home,
Yep.
or alcohol. People drinking a lot more, and I was definitely
Yeah,
one of
man.
those people.
Yeah. I'm
So,
sure if you look on the statistics online on a global scale, that was probably up significantly. But I know on a national scale for us, the two things that never closed were the liquor stores or the tobacco shops. I would drive by a liquor store all the time, and it would be open regular hours. You know?
oh yeah. So people, those creature comforts and yes, those vices where you're just like, I just need something. I need something to help get me along and help
Just
get me
think about what
through.
would have happened if those places were closed.
Oh gosh, there would have been people would have lost their minds. I
Yeah, yeah,
honestly think people would have lost their minds because this is like one of those things where obviously it's not good if a vice or habit controls you in a negative way. Like
yeah.
if you're drinking too much, you need to, figure that out and get that taken care of. But it's all those are also ways we celebrate life.
That's right. That's right.
Those vices that we call them are just, um we do need them sometimes. And obviously we shouldn't have a full-on dependency on them, but they do help us enjoy life. And
Yep.
when I think about cigars, especially because giving a little bit of background on myself, um it was prior to 2018. I didn't smoke cigars much. I honestly smoked maybe one or two a month.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, it was like maybe a few times a year at most. But then I'm spending more time with my dad. Every time we go over to his house, he'd always offer, a cigar because he was always stocked. And
Nice.
he would always say, "You want to smoke a cigar?" And depending on whether my wife decided to tolerate it, I usually got to smoke because she's not a huge fan, but she
Yeah,
supports
yeah.
what I do.
As
Um,
long as it's tolerated, you're good, man.
yeah, right. So I mean, goodness gracious, she let me build this studio in the garage so that way I'd had a place to smoke.
Nice.
Um, but it was, yeah, prior to 2018, I didn't smoke much, but I was starting to smoke more.
Okay.
And but it was like February of 2018. That was the month, man, where just everything went down, and it was just crazy because
Yeah.
halfway through the month, our nephew, who was only 21, passed away in a car accident. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I appreciate that. This kid was a fixture in our family. Like he was there
Uh,
all the time, and he was such an amazing young man, and he just had such an impact on everyone around him. And
wow.
it was just devastating. Doesn't even really scratch the surface of how we felt
No, no.
because he was such a beloved member of our family. Because you know how it is, like you may have like extended family members who and you care about, but you're not close with them.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so when you hear about them, passing away, it makes you sad, but there's not as much of a connection as there would be like with other family members.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and he was always present. He lived with my in-laws, and he was working on his career and everything like that in the auto industry. And he was an absolute just solid fixture in my oldest son's life, who he absolutely
Wow.
adored. His cousin, they spent a lot of time together, and him and I had things in common and all that stuff. So it was just a massive blow.
Oh,
And
man.
then 11 days later, my youngest son was born. And
Oh,
so it was like the lows, the highs, the peaks, and the
yeah.
valleys. It was just like we were all a mess, but I just, in my own private, battle and everything, just my day-to-day life, I was just like, oh my gosh, I was having trouble just maintaining.
Yeah, yeah,
And
understood.
cigars were a massive help during that time because whenever I needed to take time and reflect and just have a quiet, hour or two to myself, that was how I chose to spend it,
Nice.
enjoying cigars. And the more I enjoyed, the more I wanted to try different ones. And the more I tried different ones, the more I wanted to like explore different brands and things like that. And that's when I was really first introduced to, and I had no idea that there was such a thing as quote boutique cigars
Right.
prior to that. Cause I smoked what everybody smoked. I smoked
Yep.
the Cohibas and the Monte Cristos and the Gurkhas. But
Yeah.
and so I smoked what a lot of people smoked. And then I start discovering these brands that are just they go toe to toe with these big names. Sometimes, I mean, well, actually a lot of the time, or even better, just
Yeah.
because they are
Yeah.
made with a attentiveness, a passion, and a love that I think larger brands either don't or just can't do.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
so a brand like yours, I mean, it's got your full attention because you only have so many cigars in your portfolio, but because of that you get to focus extra on them and make sure that they're the best they can possibly be, and the quality is amazing. I've always appreciated that about boutique
Yeah.
brands, smaller brands. They're not looking to get rich, they're looking to develop a really good product for people to enjoy. So
That's exactly correct. I mean, they're my babies,
mhm.
So yeah, I pay a lot, a lot of attention to them, and it's very personal. You know,
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody drop one of my cigars if I've been at an event. Thank God. I'm
that
like,
that yeah, you want that.
yeah. So that's great because I think I'd be crushed. You know, you know.
Yeah,
But
because I like I was saying before, like I mean, because unfortunately, and obviously, I will not say any names. I will
yeah,
not
yeah.
name brands or companies or people. But I think some people who own, their boutique brands or smaller brands, I feel like they're just kind of making cigars to make cigars and
Hmm.
they're not paying as much attention as they could to quality and blending and stuff like that. Cause there's been one or two brands in recent history that I've tried where from one cigar to the next in that particular manufacturer's portfolio, I couldn't tell much of a difference between them.
Mm.
They're more or less the same cigar, maybe with slight variations, whether it's just the Vitola or maybe one hint of something in the cigar. And
Yep.
there's nothing to really write home about, not to disparage their work, but at the same time, it's just like it's not something you can go into casually, or you
Right.
shouldn't anyway.
Right. Right.
If
Sure.
you're going to blend cigars or create a product for people to enjoy, yeah, some people might not care that much and they just want to smoke something. You have,
Yeah.
I think you have one of those for every however many cigar smokers. There's those people who just they don't care, they just smoke to smoke.
Yeah.
um but for people like yourself and me and others, whether you are a manufacturer, a blender, or just a consumer of cigars, um then yeah, it's something you shouldn't go into casually.
Yeah. I mean, and not everybody not everybody's gonna like your blends, man. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's okay.
So
You gotta take that one on the chin too.
when you initially got the idea, it was kind of set in your mind, like how did that come about? Like when you decided, what, I think I'm going to develop my own brand of cigars. Obviously it's not something you just jump into, it takes time to develop. Like how did that come about, just when you decided that that's what you were going to do?
Well, I mean, I kind of jumped into it. I
Well,
mean,
okay.
to be perfectly honest, I mean, it just like I always go with my gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my gut was telling me at a certain point. I mean, I had already developed my business plan and stuff, but my gut was telling me like, it's you gotta go to Nicaragua like right now.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's exactly what I did. I just like booked myself on a plane to Nicaragua because I had to touch it already. I had to like be in it. I had to
Yeah.
like take that step. And it's a scary thing. I didn't know anybody in Nicaragua. Like I just
Well,
like made a
yeah.
couple folks. It's
Nicaragua
just
is
like
not exactly the safest place in the world either.
no, no. I mean, so I just went over there and I just like took a chance and I started scouring different factories, started asking questions and just kind of like did my homework and just wanted to learn. And luckily for me, there were some people who were willing to talk to me, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody's busy all the time, in this industry and
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of industries, but especially this industry. It's like, and I'm a nobody, so it's like, who are you? It's like, kid, I have time. I have like a million things I'm doing here, and I'm just kind of like, pulling on people's coattails, and I'm like, hey, but how about if I want to do this? And
I have a question.
I have a question. Excuse me. I'm that guy. I'm like,
Right.
I'm annoying. So when I want something, I gotta, I don't stop. And that's another thing, perseverance. You gotta have like a lot of perseverance, take a lot of no's.
Oh yeah, you
You
got to be
know,
hungry. You got to be
yeah,
hungry
I,
for it.
I I got a lot of doors slammed in my face, and I'm still getting doors slammed in my face for some things. But again, the Rocky reference. My face is all like battered. My face is already bruised and battered.
Cut me, Mick.
So yeah, cut me. I've been cut and restitched and cut a few times.
Mhm.
So it's all good. That's part of life,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Look at Colonel Sanders. What happened to him? He
Oh
took how
gosh,
many
he was.
how many no's before his chicken
Well,
sold?
gosh, he was in his 60s, I think, when he first,
Something like that.
developed or got the right blend of herbs and spices or whatever. It's
Yeah.
I don't even eat KFC anymore, but it's still, still going pretty strong.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it's especially once you have that idea in your head and it starts a fire and it just doesn't stop burning.
No,
That's
no.
when okay, I think I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah, yeah,
Or you just know. It's like you said, you went with your gut and your gut told you you need to do this. Kind of like
yeah.
with, what I'm doing right now. I never thought I'd be doing this.
Right.
Honestly,
See?
when I first started it was just an Instagram page and I just kind of wanted to get immersed in the community and eventually go to like a YouTube and stuff like that and make videos and content. But it took a while for that to happen.
Yep.
And then next thing just I'm getting contacted by different brands and
Nice.
I'm sponsored and I'm getting sent product and things like that. I've been very, very, very fortunate. And I was telling some friends of mine recently in a lounge, it's something I really try to make sure I never ever take for granted because it could just go away.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
could
yeah,
all
yeah.
go away because I've been fortunate that I have friends and manufacturers and people who are generous with their product and they will send it to me and they will say, hey, want you to try this. Let me know your honest thoughts. I'm also stepping into the industry myself as a cigar rep or brand ambassador for a couple different brands. And so I get sent their product and I get the privilege of smoking it as well as, trying to sell it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm very wealthy when it comes to my cigars. I'm grateful that I have a full humidor, but I
Great.
also know that it could just go away. It
Yeah.
could be gone. And it's one of those things where I try to make sure that I never ever take it for granted, never feel entitled to anything. Just be grateful and glad for what I have and what I'm being given. And try to
Yep.
continue in that same fashion because yeah, it could all stop. It could end one day without warning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's kind of crazy how, you know, where life will take you in those unexpected directions. And like you say, I never thought I'd have a studio in my garage doing this kind of stuff. And so just like I'm sure like prior to you design, wanting to start your own cigar brand, you probably had no idea that's where you were headed.
No, I was in advertising,
Yeah.
graphic
But
design. So, you know.
But hey, those are skills that come in handy when it comes to developing like any kind of brand of any type.
Yeah, that's
Those are good
true.
skills to have. So that kind of paved the way for you a little bit and helped you in first developing, your brand and promoting it and selling it. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It still continues to serve the brand for sure. I mean, I do all of our promotional stuff. I do everything. Every graphic that you see, every post you see, social media outreach, all the channels, all that stuff. That's still me. I mean, so it continues. I continue to be hungry. I continue to, and you got to keep that. You got to continue to forge ahead. I mean, there's a couple people, guys out there doing it that are that are doing it, and they're doing it right. That's another thing I was talking about on another show. That's like, you know, there's it's easy to fall into the traps of not doing things the right way. You gotta in this industry, you gotta honor those people who came before you. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And that have paved the way for you. And you need to continue the tradition of what this is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And yeah, you're gonna put your own spin on it, but you need to keep its for me its core and its essence and and all that good stuff that comes with it. You know.
Well, yeah, because there are certain traditions in cigar making and just creating cigars for people to enjoy. That it is a business. Yes, you want to create a product, but at the same time, you're not just making a product. Um, some of the
Mm-hmm.
best cigars I've ever smoked. It's just like I've never seen them just a product. It's one of those things where like you look at them and you're just like you you kind of get a little emotional because you're like, oh, I'm so excited. These look beautiful. They smell
Yeah.
amazing. They really just activate your senses, and they I mean, gosh, I could attach so many memories to
Yeah.
smoking cigars and vice versa. Things that conversations I remember, or events, or different things that I remember where I was smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
And
100%.
it's significant because it gives you an experience
Yeah.
um that is unlike anything else. It's like, people, yeah, they smoke cigarettes, they vape and stuff like that. Those are just habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
um it's a product that gets peddled for people to get started on and stay hooked on. Whereas, like, and I've
Yeah.
told people, like, honestly, if I needed to, I could put all my cigars down and not smoke for weeks or even months at a time if I had to.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be like having withdrawals or shakes or anything like that, because it's not the
Right.
same as smoking cigarettes or vape, where you are getting hooked on a chemical, not on an actual like enjoyable product. It's not the
Exactly.
same thing.
Exactly. 100%.
So it's yeah, when you're creating something like this, it needs to have the love, it needs to have the heart, it needs to have the passion. Otherwise, you're not going to get much out of it.
No, I mean, there's other industries and things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you get into this industry especially as one of the small guys, because you're gonna be an overnight success. You got to know that it's gonna be an uphill battle for a long time.
Yeah, a friend
You
of
know?
mine told me it takes, now granted this is a generalization, but you get my point. Like, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. You
I love
know,
that.
it can
Yeah.
take that long to, because you know how it is. Like, you all of a sudden you hear about that next new thing, that next new business, that next really, that person who just breaks onto the scene and is all of a sudden very popular and successful. It didn't just
Yeah.
happen yesterday. It didn't, like, they say, I'm going to do this thing, and then tomorrow they were, raking it in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It took years
Yeah.
of hard work and dedication to be an overnight success. From our perspective, it seems like they were just like overnight they became this big thing, when in
Yeah.
reality they've been hustling and
They've been
doing it
grinding, man. They've been grinding.
exactly, grinding for years and years until they got to be an overnight success. So
Yeah.
it takes time, it takes passion, and it takes dedication. And if you don't have that, don't expect to go far at all.
No, I mean,
So
we didn't talk about this yet, but I'm a New Jersey guy. I'm a New Jersey guy.
mhm.
So, I'm kind of like, concentrated in this area because, you know, I understand that at least for me, it's really, really difficult as it is to be, you know, just capturing the small area, never mind the entire nation or or any other coast here.
Right.
It's I think some people like really try to bite off a lot more than they can chew. I mean, I'm certainly one of like, you know, trying to do things in a small manner just correctly first. I mean, like I was saying before, the Grand Empire Reserve with the secondary gold band that I blended one size, 5x55 box press. That's it.
Mhm.
One blend, one size, and I ran with it for like a couple of years. That's it. Just cranking that out because I saw that people were enjoying it, and then I just wanted to keep penetrating the market to see, can it withstand the test of time here for like over a year and stuff, and it did.
Right.
It actually did, and people were like, "Well, why don't you come out with like 20 vitolas in the same blend?" And I was like, "What for?" I was like,
I
it's
mean,
doing it's doing great at this vitola, and not every blend is exceptional in multiple sizes as far as I'm concerned.
yep, it's that's definitely something I've learned because I mean, I typically smoke like Robustos and Toros and like torpedoes on occasion and stuff like that. Those are kind of my go-tos
Yeah,
because those seem to be, I feel like those seem to be the Vitolas where you can really, get the most out of it. Because,
yeah, yeah,
there's the gimmicky cigars, there's the novelty cigars and stuff like that. And, you got these, the football cigars and
yeah, yeah.
these weird things that people come up with, which, it's creative. They're having fun with it,
Sure.
but it's like, does the blend work that way? Is this more than just a novelty cigar? Are you actually putting in the best possible blend of tobaccos in the cigar, or are you just kind of playing around? Which,
Right, right,
playing around's fine, and people love novelty, but I want a cigar that just like I can smoke over and over and over again.
right, right,
Even if
right.
it's the same vitola every single time, and just know that I'm going to get the same experience out of it every time.
Yeah,
And even if it isn't a different vitola, I still am going to get the most out of it that I possibly could,
right,
you
right.
know. And that's not easy to pull off, as I've discovered.
No,
You
no, no.
know, you can't, you will may not necessarily get the same experience like in a Robusto or Toro that you would get in like a Lancero or a Lonsdale.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Yeah, for sure. And
So
I love the Lancero.
yeah, I like smoking those every now and then. It's not something that's a go-to for me. I kind of like not the big fat cigars. I like the 660. I think that's like the biggest ring gauge I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
because I remember I tried smoking a 770 and my jaw hurt.
Whoa. Yeah.
Um, it's like if it's gonna be uncomfortable, I don't want to smoke it.
Yeah, yeah.
But like the Robustos and Toros with like anywhere from like a 54 to 56 ring gauge, I mean that's my wheelhouse. That's home. And
Yeah.
those cigars always deliver on the experience and the flavor. And it's just you want to play with it, you want to experiment with it, yes. But like you said, there's not much value in like creating a whole bunch of vitolas, even if it is the same blend, because yeah, some people like different vitolas, but if you know it works in the one, why mess with a good thing?
Yeah. I mean that's my line of thinking. So I mean that's kind of for the Grand Apex, I'm I could bet you that I'm not gonna come out with any more Vitolas than that. We had a hit with the Robusto Extra here,
Mm-hmm.
the 52 by 5.5. I mean, it works delicious in this size, and we scored a 91 in Cigar Snob with that
Yeah, I
blend
saw that. That's
with it
awesome.
on here. So I just wanted to come out with the extreme version of that after a
Mhm.
while, just to test it,
Mhm.
just to test it, because I hadn't blended a 660 in a long time, and I thought this blend would be ideal to bring in a 660. And I kind of wanted to challenge myself, but I'm gonna stop here. I believe for now. I think I don't think I'll take it any further because I think we did a really really nice job on the 660, and I don't know. I
It
don't feel
is
like right
good.
now. Oh,
It's
good. I'm
good.
glad you like it.
I
I'm
do I
glad.
do like it. It's, e- every now and then having kind of like a nice big cigar, you can take your time with it,
Yeah.
and it's really, I mean, it's the flavors are really simple, nothing overly complex. Because sometimes I do like complex cigars.
Yep.
I like
Yeah,
being
me too.
surprised. I like when there's a lot of transitions. But for the most part, I like a consistent, smooth experience where even if it's predictable,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still know I'm going to enjoy it because,
It's
the
good.
it's good. The first experience was great, and then when I smoked it again, I mean, maybe it was better, maybe it was the same, but either way, I know I'm going to enjoy it. And this one so far, it's just got a nice chocolatey profile, not too
Beautiful.
strong, but it's got some good earthy tones in there and a slight sweetness. That to me is an ideal cigar.
Good.
Don't be trying to
Good.
do backflips with me because that
Yeah.
shit doesn't impress me.
Well, it's
Because
got it's got the San Andres Mexican Maduro wrapper on there.
and I love San Andres.
Me
It just
too.
about anywhere. It's just got such a unique flavor profile, and it
Yep.
really makes whatever blend you put inside of a San Andres wrapper, it enhances it. It really makes it good. Um, so
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about the blend of the Grand Apex again, because I want people to kind of like get an idea of where everything comes from and what the makeup of the cigar
Absolutely.
is.
So, I mean, the components are San Andres Maduro Mexican wrapper on covering Nicaraguan binders and fillers, Criollo and Corojo tobacco in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you know what? I'll tell you something. We try the final two blend samples that I had in my hand that I
Yeah.
tried multiple versions of. When I finally got to those two, same blend components, but the wrappers were different. I had the San Andreas, and then I had it in a Corojo 99 wrapper version.
Okay.
And it was really close, but what was the deciding factor was that little bit of refinement and sweetness, just a hint of sweetness, and that the San Andres just really nailed and harmonized the entire blend. The Corojo 99 was just a little bit too harsh, a little bit, and that's something that I think I had to smoke multiple times to get it, because it
Oh
was
yeah.
close.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where one day I hope to like be in on a blending session, like to get to
Yeah,
go to a factory and experience that. I mean, bucket list.
yeah, yeah,
But it's one of those things where like it's hard for me to wrap my mind around because I'm enjoying the finished product.
right,
I'm enjoying the fruits of the manufacturer's labor and the blender's labor. To
yeah,
be in on an actual blending session and trying to decide which one works better with what wrapper or binder. And the moment you said Nicaraguan binder and filler, and especially with the Corojo and Criollo, I was like, God, you're speaking my language because I
great.
love Nicaraguan tobacco is my absolute favorite.
I
It
know, me too.
it never fails.
Yep, it's just delicious. And I'll tell
Yes.
you what, um, I think it was last year. Last year, no, it could have been the year before. Henke Kellner tried this blend, the Grand Apex blend, in the
Oh, the blender from Davidoff.
yeah. He's retired now, but
Yeah.
he tried the Robusto Extra. It just happened by chance. I was sitting and talking to somebody else in the booth, and he came. He was just sitting there, and he was like, "Let me try that," and I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Great."
This could either
This is
go
a
really
really
well or really bad.
yeah, yeah. This is really. I was like, yeah, no, but he's a really down to earth, beautiful man. What a gentleman. Just really easygoing guy. But
Yeah.
he did tell me exactly what he thought. He lit it up and he just smoked. We were just a couple guys smoking there, and what a master of his craft, man. I mean, I hope to one day get to that level. I mean, as the man is smoking, he's pointing to the parts of his mouth, his tongue, the upper roof of his mouth, and he's telling me the regions where they're hitting in his mouth. And I'm like, man, you're like, you're like hashtag goals, man. I'm like, oh my
Right.
god, this man
Right.
is on seriously. And he was telling me what if I wanted to take the blend in a certain direction, what components, what tobacco I had to put in it. And I was like, Jesus Lord, can I record you? I was like so in awe of the man, and thank him for his input and his conversation.
Oh
Talks a
yeah,
lot talked a lot about his
absolutely.
family too. I mean, he loves his family. It's a beautiful thing to see. But
Oh yeah.
he did, give me a compliment on the blend, and I knew that I had, getting a validation from Mr. Kellner is like no other. So I was
Yeah, no
honored. And,
kidding. I mean,
yeah,
gosh.
he gave me the approval. He was like, it's good as it is, but if you want to take it somewhere else, like this is what you need to do. But
Mhm.
he smoked a good portion of it, and I thank him for his input and his time.
Wow.
He didn't have to do that.
That's a privilege right there. That really
Yeah,
is, just
what a
because to
great
have
man.
someone who's
If anybody's able to meet him, walk right up to him. He'll shake your hand. He'll have a conversation with you. He's really a good guy.
that's incredible. It's very cool to get to, you know, I mean, these are the celebrities of our world in the cigar
Yeah,
community, the people that we see as like, you know, but the wonderful thing is about most of them, not all of them, because you get the odd, you know,
yep.
egotistical person here and there, but because if they're
I,
really good at what they do and they get told all the time that they're good at what they do, sometimes it can go to your head. But I love
yeah,
meeting people who fit the profile I just said. They're excellent at what they do it very well, and they're renowned for it, but they're still humble, they're still approachable,
yep.
and they will sit down and have a cigar with you and have a conversation, or try your cigar and give you their honest thoughts that are constructive. They're not deconstructing your
Right,
cigar. They're just saying, this is good, but here's how you could make it even better. you know
right. And
that's not
he's
an
not.
insult. That's
No,
like
no.
all praise right there, really.
And you can, what I like about what he did, and I reflect on it now, and he didn't know me from a hole in the wall, but he's a legend, because he's a legend. I mean, he's in
Oh
every
yeah.
magazine, whatever. But
Yep.
he respects and is in love with tobacco, with the
Hmm.
industry. That's why I think he gives people's opinion, and he sat down with me because he loves this. He loves the tobacco. That's
Hmm.
that's his world, and he doesn't
Yep.
want he doesn't want it to go down. He wouldn't want to go down the wrong path, or and that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing when somebody loves something so much that they'll give you their time for it. That's cool.
Yeah, and well, and also just based off of what you're saying, is like he also obviously has the consumer in mind, and not just the
Right.
love of the leaf and love of the craft, but he's thinking about the people who are going to smoke it.
Right.
I mean, granted, people like I remember I heard something like Steve Saka talking about, like, he blends cigars that he knows that he would love to smoke. Now, the thing about that is, that can be tricky because not everybody enjoys the same thing. But at the same time, he also thinks of himself as, I'm a consumer of cigars as well as a blender of cigars.
Right.
This is something I would enjoy smoking, and I'm sure he bounces it off of multiple people.
Yeah.
And you have to first remember that you're also a consumer, and you have to keep the consumer in mind. And the cigar manufacturers that I have met who have that most at the forefront of their minds when they're creating their product, I mean, really, even if they create kind of I don't want to say bad cigar, but it's not a home run, or it doesn't blow your mind, it's still a good cigar,
Yeah.
because they're trying to think of, like, what would I like to smoke? Or I heard somebody say they like this kind of blend and these kinds of tobaccos, this kind of wrapper. I'm going to try this and see what comes out of it. You
Yeah.
know, the just combining the two, the love of the leaf and the desire to give the consumer a great experience. I mean, that's where the best cigars come from.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's awesome though, to have him give you his input and just, enjoy what you created, but also, give you some tips on how you can make it even better. I mean, it's all about, evolution of what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
so I guess my next question is like what's on the horizon for Reinado Cigars? What are you currently working on something new, or are you just kind of like right now focusing on what you already have out, like the Grand Apex, and then you just released a Connecticut not too long ago?
Yeah, I mean, maintaining the momentum of the Grand Apex for sure, but we just recently came out with the Reinado C29, which is our
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut. Um, and we've only released it in a couple of spots. I mean, it's available on our website, but retailer wise, brick and mortar, just a couple of our retail partners, and it seems to be doing very well for us. What I and it's only in one size again, robusto. What I wanted to do was to bring out and blend a Connecticut blend that was really rich and hearty and just like I don't know, man, just like give it like a really good roundness to it and
Mm-hmm.
meaty that that I haven't found only like maybe in one or two that I've ever smoked. Because
You
they're usually very light. They're very like not too
they
rich,
they can
right?
be bland. I'm not I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not going to mince words, because
yeah.
there's only maybe a handful of Connecticut's that I really enjoy smoking.
Okay,
There,
yeah,
like, and to name a couple for me personally, like, the Espinosa Crema, I think, is one of the best ones. Casa Cuevas Connecticut, and a couple others where it's just like Connecticut's, I feel, are tricky because Connecticut wrappers are very delicate, and
yeah,
you have to have the right blend of binder and filler to really make the Connecticut shine and really get the
yeah,
most out of it.
yeah,
Because I've smoked tons of Connecticut's, and I would say 3 out of 4 of them tend to be just either okay, or they can honestly be a little bit on the bland side.
yeah.
Because mild cigars, I mean, they're good starters, but they don't they're unless you're willing to kind of take a couple risks and be a little bit bolder with them,
Mm-hmm.
um, they don't always stand out, and
Yeah,
that's why they're tricky. I've noticed that.
yeah. So I wanted to kind of like challenge myself and also at the same time expand our portfolio a little bit, right?
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
in an interesting way. So and I think we've achieved it here. I mean, we're getting good feedback from the C29, um, from where they've been positioned, and I can't wait to hear what else people think about them as we permeate the market there. But I like
Yeah.
what I like where it's at. I mean, I smoke one of these every day, pretty much. you know, it's pretty much
Now,
this. Yeah,
what was I say? I saw recently on social media and a couple other different accounts that, and I know you can tell me more about this. It looked like it was almost like a special edition ash hole uh club cigar, or just had the band and also your band on it. So tell me a little bit about that, because I'm curious. I don't know much about it. What was
yeah.
that?
So it's
Is
this
right
one right
there.
here.
The
Yeah,
triune.
the triune. Yeah. So we um we approached the actual cigar club, which I'm a member of, the New Jersey chapter.
I'm a member of the
Um,
California chapter.
hey, all right. So so we started having conversations, about coming up with an exclusive blend for the club, right? And they were very receptive to it. It took a while. It took like over a year for us to get everything in place.
Wow.
And again, it's in one size. It's in a robusto size. It's got a habano wrapper on it.
Nice.
It's got Nicaraguan binders and fillers in it. Um, and it's a medium. I think it's a delicious, smooth medium
Hmm.
with some really interesting flavors on it. And you know, I think we hit the mark for where we were going, what they wanted. They wanted a very medium cigar for the first one. Hopefully, we'll get to do another project with the club.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy with the results of that blend and that project. It was a lot of fun to do. It took us a little bit longer than we wanted, but that's just like
Oh
the
yeah.
nature. That's the nature of things, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm still having conversations with people about, you know, the fact that it took a little bit longer, but you know, we had to bring it out right. I could have rushed this by a couple of months, and then we would have been having other conversations, right?
Right, right. Well, you want to get it right, even if it's kind of like a special edition or novelty cigar. You're just like, let's make sure that it's something good, even if
Yeah,
it's we only ever do it once and we never do it again.
right, right.
Make it good.
It's representative of the club, you know, and the members. So
Yeah,
it's special, right? It's special.
absolutely.
So I mean, yeah, I mean this the triune blend is really smoking really nice right now. I'm
That's
gonna
good.
say so. That's kind of like what I have to say on that. If you have any other questions about the triune blend, it's
No,
like
I
we just
just thought it
have
was really cool because it was like I remember I saw that it's like it was a again kind of a special edition cigar. And I'm like that's pretty cool to have come up with something like that just specifically with the Ash Hole brand on it as well as your own. I thought
yeah.
that was pretty cool.
I had a lot of fun with it. We just recently, I don't know if you saw on social media, we had a New Jersey chapter hosted an event there in Montclair, New Jersey, and a bunch of
Saw
members
that.
also from New York came over. I mean, I love that. I hope we do some more of those because it, you know, brings more members together. So
Absolutely.
I would love to do something else. I'd love to do like a Toro, maybe
Yeah. Yeah, well, you
Toro
never know.
blend.
I mean,
You know, a
eh,
different blend. Hopefully, we'll do it in a Toro. Why not?
absolutely. So Antonio, you mentioned before because you talked about your dad, and he's been suffering from dementia for quite a while now. I'd imagine. When did you first start to exhibit symptoms of dementia?
I would say like about 10 years ago, maybe
Hmm.
7 to 10 years ago, and it just deteriorated. It's deteriorated ever since then. Every year, I mean,
Yeah,
you could see the significance, you know,
right.
deterioration of it. But you know, I think he still has like those small moments of clarity where he's paying attention and he can kind of like absorb and you can sense that something he's understanding some things. But yeah, it continues to be a struggle for him and the
Hmm.
family. So we're working closely with the Dementia Society of America.
Hmm.
Um, you know, they have great team over there, and we we're we constantly you know are in communication with them,
Hmm.
and also a percentage of the portion of the proceeds from the Reinado sales go to Dementia Society of America to help that effort and bring awareness to, you know, to what's going on with the families and that kind of
Right.
thing. So
And that's incredible because you really can't place enough importance on something that just affects so many people, and it's something I don't have much experience with. I think I mentioned, you know, kind of off of the, off the cuff before we really got to talking about this. I had a customer who was a dementia sufferer. He was a very nice man, and he had he still seemed lucid, but you could tell that there were things that were kind of getting lost in his eyes, and
yeah.
he would talk about what he knew. He would talk about what he remembered. He seemed to remember me when I would show up, and he decided to come out and chat with me. But
Hmm.
it's a slow deterioration, and it's very difficult to see someone you love go through that. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful that you've been able to get connected with the Dementia Society, so that way you can. I mean, it really gives purpose to even this someone suffering with this condition, because you're giving to help people advance, to also do research on how to combat it, which I mean, I know something like that is ongoing, and it's a very tricky thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I only hope that one day, God knows, but that this is something that people won't have to suffer from anymore.
Absolutely.
Um, just because to see someone you love slowly forget about you, and forget about just about everything.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't recognize the world around them. I can't even imagine. And it's something that I wish wasn't a part of our reality, but it is. And that's why, organizations like the Dementia Society of America exist. And can people just go straight to the website and donate and help contribute?
Absolutely. It's the dementiasociety.org.
Mm-hmm.
And you can donate right there. There's a button, donate online. You can donate online right there. It's a very easy process. So I really encourage, to give anything you can. I mean, it doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be like an exorbitant amount of money. Just something small, and it goes a long way. You're going to be helping a lot of people.
Are there other ways people can get involved? Can they like volunteer their time? Can they, how else can people get involved with them?
That I'm not sure about. But there is a contact pay button on there. So you might want to reach out to them. They always get back to you, and they're pretty prompt and attentive. So I would definitely speak to somebody about that. There might be an opportunity for that for sure.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to leave a link to the Dementia Society in the description so that way people can check
Oh,
it
great.
out and
Nice.
donate if they want to. And
All right.
at the very least, find out more about it, because goodness knows, there's probably plenty of people within the cigar community who have a relative, loved one, or friend who is suffering from dementia, or and would like to know more. So that's
Yeah.
definitely, we'll leave that information for people to check out. But this was an absolute pleasure, Antonio. I'm grateful that we got connected and
Oh,
we got to have this talk and, talk about, I mean, cigars, obviously, but life and so many other things. And it is a pleasure, man. Thank you for being on the show.
likewise. No, thank you for inviting me and for the heartfelt talk. I anytime you want to, we'll hop on and do that. And best to you and your family and everybody out there listening.
Likewise to you, my friend. And I'm going to also leave information on, we'll leave the website to Reinado Cigars in the
Thank you.
description. Please definitely, guys, go to Reinado premiumcigars.com, right?
Yep. Yep.
Premiumcigars.com. And I mean, it's the Grand Apex, the 660, the Robusto, and then the C29 Connecticut.
Yep.
I mean, you can get boxes, you can get,
Five
samplers, you
packs.
could just, yeah, 5 packs and all that good
Yep.
stuff. Please go check it out and pick up some. The 660 so far is excellent. I'm enjoying it. So definitely check it out. But thank you again, bro. And let's do this again, please.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, absolutely. Have
All
a
right,
good night.
guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. And as always, catch you in the next one.